This is lesson 6 of how to configure a new BBS in Image 3.0. First we'll look at the effects from lesson 5, and then we'll go into the base editor programs and look at find access, fix the board activity count, make anagram, scan netlog, run alpha index, lieutenant kernel utilities, set time device number, set CMD clock, net files, and then we'll go into the editor utilities and see what's contained in convert menus, edit text messages, edit the board activity register, and edit sayings. We're starting to get into the neat stuff now, so let's get going. So in the last lesson 5, I was using a version of TCP serve Cluj with a logging level of 7, and if you saw that video you noticed that the response time back to CG term was quite slow. So I changed to a different version of TCP serve and I set the logging level to 4 for this one. Let's see if it speeds up the video a little bit as far as what gets sent back to the received side. I've got CG term all ready to log in, and I'm going to hit return, and let's see what happens. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. Hit the backspace key. Are you an 80 column? Yes. Alright, now notice at the login options menu you've got several options that you can take. If you hit the exclamation point, it'll instantly log you back off. If you hit the star, it'll allow you to change your ASCII translation. You can do an M for mail check or X for express login. The express login will bypass all of the modules that were set up in the login setup procedure. So if you want to go through all of those items as far as the news files and any other modules that were included in the logins, do not use the express login. So let me demonstrate something. I'm going to hit return here to log in. I'm going to enter my ID number of 1. I'm going to enter the wrong password. It tells me login is not valid, and it turns the border of image on the terminal to a light blue. This will notify the SysOp that there was a telecheck error. So if I enter 1 this time and enter the correct password, it'll give me a login successful. Okay, wow, that's a lot better. Notice on the CG term screen the last 7 callers came up very fast. BBS brings up the user status screen, and it goes to the news files. And notice that it showed me both news files and brings me up to the login menu screen. I'm going to try that play anagrams again, because in the meantime I've given myself some credits. Okay, so I guess there are some words that are already programmed into the program since we haven't added any. The purpose of this game is to unscramble the letters to form a word. I have no idea what that is, so I'm going to answer no to solve. I'm going to quit. I've already seen the today in history for today, and I've already seen the board activity, so I'm just going to quit. Now notice I've got a mail. It identifies that I've got a mail. So I'm going to press yes to read the mail. And notice it tells me that there was a failed attempt to log into my account. If it was not you, please notify the sysop. Well, I know that that was me who entered the wrong password, and that's why I failed the security check. So I'm going to quit out of email and delete all. Next I'm going to go into ZZ mode, which puts the right check mark on LOC, and I'm going to view feedback. And you notice when you go into view feedback, it removed that light blue border around the sysop screen, and now the system tells me that there was a telecheck error. If I enter T for telecheck error, it'll ask me which to start at. I just hit return, and it tells me that there was a failed security check. If I wanted to view, I've got options to view the account where that happened, and it brings up certain parameters of my account. I'm going to exit the view feedback menu by just hitting actually I want to scratch the telecheck error, so I enter S and T for telecheck. I could have also used X. I'm going to use auto. It'll ask me if I'm sure. Yes, and it's scratch E.telecheck. Notice now that there's no number next to the telecheck. Alright, so when we left off on the last lesson, we were at the base editors. So let's go to the base editors. Okay, let's go through this item right here. Item A is to find access. The Access Group Finder. This program will look through your user files and find all users with any specified access group. Which access group do we want to find? I want to find access group 9. I'm the only user on this board, but if there were other users and they had access level 9, it would list them all. Or I could enter any access group that I wanted to. Now, one thing about this, if you enter access group 0, it'll not only bring up any users that are still access group 0, but it'll also bring up any new users that have logged on only one time and have not yet logged back in since you validated them and approved their account. So I'm going to say no to this. Next item is fix BA count, the board activity count. So I'll take item B. Now notice you've got several items that are available at this menu. It'll allow you to count the posts and responses, count the uploads, count the mail, count feedback, sysop mail, and new users, and scan the new user list for the first empty slot, or do all of the above. This is a brand new board. We don't have any posts and responses yet. We don't have any uploads yet. We don't even have any mail. So there's no use in performing any of these functions right now, but just showing you that they're available and what they do. Item C is to make an anagram. You notice that when I played the anagram, it did bring up a word, so apparently there are some words that are already included. Let me use item 4 to list the words file not found. They must be part of the basic program. So let's add a word. File not found, hit. Okay, so we need to create the word file. Continue, yes. Interesting, it brought me back to the main prompt. That must be a little glitch in the program. I have to go in there and fix that. Let's go back to the base editors. Let's go back to make anagram. And since I've already created a word file, let's see if I can add words now. Input word. Let's use the word sysop. Add this word to the group. Yes. Return to end. Let's add another word. Number 2. Commodore. Add the word Commodore. Yes. Return to end. Word added, hit any key. Now if I use number 4 to list the words, it brings up the words that I've entered. And if this game has been played before and that word has been solved, it'll tell me that, or not, it'll tell me if it was used and if it was correct on the first or second try. So that's a basic demonstration of how to use the anagram program. The next is to scan net log. That's the network log. We're not in the network yet, so there's not going to be a log, but if there were, you could enter a question mark and it would list any network logs that are present on the email drive. You notice it didn't bring up any file names, so all we got to do is hit no to exit out of this. Run alpha index E. I'm not going to run it, but I'm going to bring up the menu. If ever your users cannot log on with their handle, it's probably because the alpha file got corrupted, and that's in this version of image. It's u.index. So the way you would recreate it would be to do the following menu selections, and they have to be done in this order. First you would load, then you would clear, then you would make, then you would save, then you would quit. So that's the sequence: load, clear, make, save, quit. 0. I'm running on a CMD. Let's see what happens if I try to use the Lieutenant Colonel utils. Sorry, these utilities are for the Lieutenant Colonel use only. So it brings up an error message that tells me that I can't use that because I'm not configured for Lieutenant Colonel. Item G is the editor utils. I'm not going to talk about that in this lesson. That'll be the next lesson. But item H, set time device number. Your image system is currently sets image time from CMD device number 9. Do you want to change it? Yeah, why not? I'm going to select number 2, CMD with real-time clock, and I know that device 10 is also a CMD drive, so I'll enter device 10. So now if I use the same thing again, it tells me that the clock is set to update from device 10, and I don't need to change it because I just did. if I ever need to, if I ever want to set the CMD clock, there's an option for that. And it'll come up and ask you what's the device number of your CMD hard drive. I just set it to 10. That was the one that I was using. So now it'll bring up this basic menu here. It'll bring up the current date and the time, and if you need to change anything, you can use the plus and minus keys to change what's displayed. And then if everything is correct, you're going to hit return. If it's not correct, you can hit space to change it. Item J is net files. If this board was networked, this option would allow you to exchange files across the network with another board that's configured to be in the network. And right now, if I go and try to use it, it's not available because this board is not in the network. So maybe later on, after we configure this board into a network, I'll demonstrate how to use net files. Like I said, I'm going to reserve the editor utils for, well, wait a minute. Let's go into editor utils. Notice it brings up a separate menu. This is another sub-menu. And item A is to run rel edit. And that's the one that I want to save for a future lesson because that's going to be a long one. But let's go down and see what convert menu does. Normally the menus are what displays to the user when you enter the question mark. And all of those menus that you received as part of the master package are s.menu files. This convert menu program will convert the s.menu to an e.menu of the same number. Now you can convert any of the menus 1 through 9 except for menu 3 because it's too big to an e.menu. So let's do one. The menu I want to convert is menu number 1. That's the main menu, and you can see right now that it displays on the screen. So it's just that quick. What happened was the BBS converted s.menu1 to e.menu1, and e.menu1 is in a structures file, whereas s.menu1 was a sequential file. And you'll see in the next demonstration the advantage of using e.menu files in structure format. Okay, so while I'm at it, I'm going to do menu number 2 and convert it. I'm going to skip number 3. I'm going to do number 4. I'm going to do number 5. I'm just hitting return on every time I am asked that question. I'm going to do number 6. I'm going to hit return, hit return, hit return. I'm going to do number 7. I'll do number 8. And I'll do number 9. Okay, so now all of the menus are converted to structures files as e.menu files. I'm done with that, so at this point I'm just going to hit return, and that'll bring me back to the sub menu. Okay, now let's see what you can do now that the menus are converted as far as editing the menus. Okay, go to item D, and it asks me which menu to edit. I'm going to say number 1. That's the main menu. Okay, now you see it brings up a list of menu items and by line number, and in the next column there's an access level next to each line of menu. And what this allows you to do is change items on the menu line by line to the access group that you want to see it. So if you've got like new users that are not familiar with the BBS, you can change the access level for that line and they'll never see that in the menu when they enter the question mark. So you notice line number 55 is for XP, expert mode toggle. Let's edit line 55 by entering the E and 55. Now you notice it says access 1023 flags 1 text is shown on the line below. So I'm going to change the access level to, let me see if it'll let me use the question mark here. No. I'll set the access level to, I believe 768. Will include groups 8 and 9. Okay, so now I can list, and notice that line 55 has changed to 768. So any user whose access level is less than access level 8 will not see that expert mode toggle. I'm going to quit out of this, and it asks me if I want to save my changes. I'm going to say yes, and it'll ask if I want to edit another menu. I'm done with the demonstration, so I'll exit out of that. Let's go over and see what edit text message does. It tells me, it asks me if I want to see the instructions. Yes. Text messages are messages that your users see when they try to do something they do not have proper access for or have not been cleared to do. The text messages may be edited to a certain extent, and this file will help you do that. It is self-prompting and will request verification before writing to your text file. We recommend you make a backup of your original file before you proceed. I want to list the messages. Okay, if you notice there are 6 defined messages. These are in the file e. Let me see if I remember. I can't remember the name of the file, but this program will allow you to change that if I wanted to say something different. In other words, if somebody tried to do something and tried to upload a program and there wasn't enough room on the disk, you could change that to say something other than what it says right now. That's pretty self-explanatory. Let's quit out of this. The next item is edit BAR, the board activity register. Remember back in the last menu we had a menu option to update, to fix the BAR. Well, if the fixed BAR didn't produce the results that you wanted, you have another way of editing the board activity register. You can do it by line number. So, for example, if the sysup mail wasn't logged correctly, I could, for the current total, I could enter 24, and it says the current value is 0, and I know that there's actually 1 in there, I could change it. And then I would probably also edit 31, which is the system total of males, and change that to 1. Okay, so you don't get to verify that until you exit out of all the menus and use the command to display the board activity. Now, the last item we're going to talk about today is the sayings. That's item G. The e.say file is the file that contains all of the random sayings that show up if you've got them configured to be on. So in this utility you can list, first of all, it tells me that there's 121 current sayings, and if I wanted to list them, it would ask me starting from which saying. Let's say 115. You notice this brings up all the sayings from 115 to 121. This will allow you can view the entire list, you can edit any one of the messages, you can add messages to the bottom or replace messages, and again, this is pretty self-explanatory. It'll tell you how to do it. Now, let's say I wanted to edit message number 121. It'll bring up another menu and it'll ask you which line to edit. Now, each one of the sayings is contained in 4 lines. This is stored in a rel file. So you select the line that you want to edit and go ahead and edit it. Type it in the way you want it to appear. I'm just going to hit return and quit out of this menu. So that pretty much is everything I need to talk about here. I guess I'm going to quit out of this menu, and we're going to save the run rel edit for the next lesson. Okay, quit. Q, quit. And we're back at the main menu. I'm going to log off with the % and the $sign, which saves my last call date and does an instant log off without going through the normal questions. It'll just log me off instantly. Alright, I'm disconnected. Thanks for watching. See you again on the next lesson.